Hi everyone, welcome again to Bake Your Way Kitchen. Today I'm going to do a little bit explanation video on sugar and basically the different kinds of sugar there are, and just to basically tell you when you use them, why you use them, things like that. So I'll first explain what I've got here. So first in the back here I've got powdered sugar. It's also referred to as confectioner sugar or icing sugar. It really depends on the region you're from. I've got two kinds of refined sugar here. I've got regular white granulated sugar, and I've got white superfine sugar. Now you'll see it's a little lumpy. Okay, and then I've got right here in the front, I've got brown sugar. This is a dark brown sugar. And I've got a cane sugar here. This is actually called cane juice, but it's a cane sugar. It's an unrefined sugar. And in the back here, I've got basically very similar to the dark brown sugar, except this is a golden yellow brown sugar. So I'm going to quickly just go through these ingredients, when we use them, why we use them, things like that. So first one I'll go through is confectioner sugar. You'll see me oftentimes using this in baking, obviously, for icing. It's a critical component of an icing. Whether it's a buttercream or a regular icing, it helps thicken the frosting that you're trying to create, as well as provide you that very, very sweet flavor that you're looking for. So you'll almost always see it when it comes to icing. You'll also sometimes, you can really vary what you can do with it. Sometimes for, like, I make peanut butter balls, chocolate peanut butter balls, and basically you use confectioner sugar, and that helps thicken up. It really helps to just thicken up whatever it is you're making. So you'll see a lot of recipes that call for that with confectioner sugar. Next, we've got two kinds of granulated sugar. We have just regular white granulated sugar here, and I've got superfine sugar here, or I think it's referred to in some places as caster sugar. And the only difference between these two is the thickness. Regular granulated sugar, you can see it's not very coarse, but superfine sugar is superfine sugar is not nearly as coarse as the refined sugar. And oftentimes, if you ever see me, I don't often use superfine sugar, but if you ever see me use it, all you need to do is use the same amount of sugar requested. If you have granulated sugar, put the granulated sugar in a food processor and just grind it up until it's super fine. And that's all it is. And really, you want to use superfine sugar when you're using something when you want the sugar crystals to break down quickly. When you're making something that's hot and you're trying, like, let's say even like you just start pouring your melted chocolate in your brownie batter, you want the sugar granules to dissolve quickly, and for that case you would use superfine sugar. Now for superfine sugar, I always recommend, like confectioner sugar, that you always sift it first, because these both tend to have a lot of lumps. Granulated sugar, not so much. Now when it comes to granulated sugar, this is just refined sugar. You can pretty much, you'll see this in a lot of recipes. Brownies, cakes, pies, cookies. It's a very common ingredient. And this is just your regular sugar that most people use when it comes to baking recipes. Now, in the front here, I've got cane juice or cane sugar. It's an unrefined sugar. I don't oftentimes use it. I like to use it. It's got a very I don't really know how to describe the taste, but it's very natural. And as you can see, it is very coarse. It is very coarse. So you definitely don't want to be using it in recipes that you need a smooth texture. So yeah, so this is pretty much cane juice sugar. I think I use this for a granola because I like to have that crunch. And you know what it's great on? If you're making ginger cookies and you're rolling them in sugar, this would be great. It gives you that nice crunchy texture. So I would really recommend this when you're looking for a nice crunchy texture. You definitely don't want it in smooth batters because it just won't dissolve quickly, and your product might not end up as good as you want it to be. The last two sugars that we have here are the dark brown sugar and the light brown sugar. These are both processed, refined sugars, but with molasses added. And the darker your brown sugar, the more molasses is involved. So obviously the dark one has more molasses than the golden yellow. I like to use the golden yellow brown sugar, and the reason it's still in the packaging, I haven't opened it because I just am currently using the dark one. I like to use the golden yellow for, excuse me, when I'm using, for example, cookie recipes. I like to have the lighter, lighter look, basically a whiter cookie. I don't like it as dark, and so that I can still use brown sugar, and it doesn't really affect too much the actual color of the batter. I find when I use brown sugar, it can really make it dark, and in some cases that's good. Like when I make a chocolate pudding, I often use the dark brown sugar because that's when I want it. But for things like cookies, where I want a lighter, maybe not as strong a molasses flavor, I oftentimes use golden yellow brown sugar. So those are the sugars. Now, can you change these up? We've got quite a few here. For the most part, yes, except for the confectioner sugar. You can pretty much, it really depends on you. If you see recipes that call for brown sugar and white sugar, you could change the proportions to how you like it. Like, let's say it's 1 cup brown sugar, 1 cup white sugar. You could really mix it up. Like, let's say you could do 1.5 cups of brown sugar, 1/2 cup of white sugar if you really like the brown sugar and that molasses flavor that you get from it. And yeah, so you can change these up. Even with the cane sugar, you can use the same amount of cane sugar that's called for in a recipe, or unrefined sugar, and it would work for just fine. Now, the only place you're going to run issues is if it's calling for confectioner sugar, or if there's sugar and you only have confectioner sugar. Confectioner sugar is more of an issue. It's completely different from these other ones. As you can see, it's very floury. It's not at all the same texture as the other sugars. The other sugars are very similar in texture, except some are coarser than others. But confectioner sugar is meant as a thickener, like in things like frosting and icing. It's got more of a limited purpose. But when it comes to other sugars, absolutely. You could substitute, if it's white sugar, you could use cane sugar instead. If it's brown sugar, you could use Superfine instead. And it's just really important to know these things. And again, I just wanted to reiterate the point. You will see some recipes where I use superfine sugar. This is basically not as coarse version. It's basically like it's not as coarse as the granulated sugar. So if you ever see me call for that, you don't need to go out and look everywhere for caster sugar or superfine sugar as it's known here. Just simply put it in a food processor. Saves you time and money. But yeah, so I hope that helped clear things up. I just wanted to do a quick preview of the different types of sugar. If you have any questions at all, I will certainly try to answer them. I'm just basically giving a small rundown, not going through a whole history about sugar, just a basic review of the ingredients I have and why I use them. And I certainly hope that I did help you answer any questions you may have had regarding sugar. But if you still do, please leave it down below, and I'd be happy to answer anything. And of course, your feedback is greatly appreciated with my videos, so absolutely, if you have anything to add at all, I'd love to hear it. Anyways, thanks again for watching.